Good morning, YouTube. Today we're going to diagnose a crank no start on a 95 Civic EG hatchback. I was driving it and got about 2 blocks away from my house. I decided that I just didn't want to run anymore. What I did was hooked up a timing light to my spark plug wires and cranked it over and realized it wasn't getting any spark. I've already taken it apart and diagnosed it, but I'm doing it again for the video. I'm going to end up replacing the entire distributor today, but I'm going to show you what I did when I took it apart and diagnosed the ignition coil, which is the actual problem inside. So let's get started. Some things you're going to need for this repair is you're going to need an ohm meter, Phillips head screwdriver, and a 12mm socket on an extension. Me personally, I need my coffee. And this, I highly recommend any cars that you're going to be working on, get yourself a subscription to All Data DIY. Gives you diagrams and whatever you may need to diagnose what's wrong, which is what I used to figure out that my coil was bad. This is our distributor right here. As I said, I already took it all apart, but we're going to do it again today to show you guys how I came to this conclusion. Now when I took this apart before, I noticed that the bottom screw was already missing. Take off your cap. Then we got to take off our rotor. The screw is already up on top, but you may have to tap your starter, crank it, tap, 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 just to get it around so that that screw lines up top. This way you have access to get your screwdriver in, because you've got to remove your rotor before you can get this plastic shroud off. Gently pry the rotor off. Once you get the bolt out, she should slip right out. Now you can take off your plastic shroud. There it is. We'll clean that up a little bit. Well, in this case, we're just going to be replacing the entire distributor, and I'll explain why in a second. So this is your ignition coil, and this is your ignition module down here. So those wires on the ignition module look a little burnt up inside, but in this car it's actually the coil that's bad. I'll show you how I came to that conclusion. All that's holding this coil in is you got these 2 leads here on the bottom, Phillips head screws, and you've got another 2 Phillips head screws here on the side. The coil slips right out. These 2 bottom screws were a little tight for me, so I sprayed them with some d15. Actually, I used PV Blaster, and I was able to get them right out. So I'll show you how that's done. Take these 2 guys out. They're very little. Don't drop them. Now we'll take these two screws out. And there we go. Ignition coil slides right out like that. See that white powdery residue on there? It's a little bit of a sign of corrosion. So what we're going to do now, as you can see, one here is marked positive, and that one here is marked negative. So now we'll go to our diagram to test the coil. We need to go between the A and B terminals, which is going to be those two screws that we took out at the bottom. So primary winding resistance between A and B terminals should be 0.6 to 0.8 ohms. So we'll grab our tool here, bring it on over. Set to ohms. Let me set this camera down so you guys can see. All right. I don't know if you can see that display. We'll test. That seems to be working. This is 0.03 ohms. Yeah, we're not anywhere near where it's supposed to be. So I decided, instead of just replacing that coil and potentially having a problem with that ignition module, I would just replace the entire distributor. In order to get the whole distributor out, you got these two plugs here. Okay, and you've got this 12mm bolt, that 12mm bolt, and you got one tucked in the back down here. Let's get to it. It's important to note the orientation of the distributor when you take it out. Notice we have that set screw for the rotor up top. What happens is when you pull this distributor off, it can only go in two ways. So just remember to put that set screw up top where it connects to the camshaft in there. It should slide right in. The distributor I ordered off Amazon came complete, cap, rotor, everything all assembled. All you got to do is bolt it up, plug it in, and it should be good to go. Well, unfortunately, it's broken. Well, being that the entire distributor was only like $65 and just the cap is broken. My old cap looks okay. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna install it, take my old cap, put it on there. I'm gonna take one of these little extra screws here. This way I have all 3 distributor cap screws. So we'll put this on, we'll plug it in, and put the new cap, the old cap on. And we should be ready to go. So I'm not going to tighten these up yet. I'm just going to slip them in and snug it. This way I can get that old cap off. We'll make sure our rotor is lined up the right direction. Just going snug by hand here. There we go. I don't want to strip them screws out there, and they're kind of tight. Alright, I got it lined up correctly. Rotor's facing the right way, the screw is up on top. I'm just taking the screw out of the cap now that we're going to use on our old cap. Which is right here. Screw in. We got to thread it into this cap. All right, it's in. And we'll just put this cap on this distributor. Make sure we don't pinch any of those wires. Try to get on there as evenly and flush as possible. By the way, I forgot to mention that what I did was I disconnected the battery before starting any of this repair here. Even though you should be fine, you don't want to, definitely don't want to zap yourself with a coil. It's not fun. So, we've got our two plugs here, which are kind of just floating around. One goes there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the distributor a little loose so I can turn it by hand. This way we'll be able to set the timing. Get it exactly where it needs to be within spec. Again, it's another specification you could find on All Data DIY. So now we'll just plug our battery back in. I always put these so close to the post that I can't get to them. Very important to make sure you have a tight battery connection. Yeah, she's on there good. All right. So let's fire up. Hope she starts. Timing light hooked up. These are our RPMs displayed right here. The engine's still a little cold, you know, it has been running a while. So we're just gonna wait for that to drop down. As you can see here, this is a D15 B7. So what we're gonna do is, on All Data, I don't know if you could see, once we find D15 B7, manual transmission, at 670 plus or minus 50 RPMs. That's USA spec. Or 750 for Canadian spec. Now this is a Canadian VIN, but it is a US model. So to be honest with you, I'm not really quite sure. As long as we're somewhere below 750 and 670, and between 750 and between 670, it looks like our timing should be 16 degrees plus or minus before top dead center. So what we'll do is, once our idle continues dropping down, which it's dropping, you know, we're already at about 1,000 RPM, 1050, 1060. We'll let it drop down some more, and we'll get the light on. What it's going to look like is see our timing marks between those two belts? They have to line up over there with those pins. So let it drop a little bit more, because it's going to run a little bit more advanced when it's cold. But it runs great. All you have to do to adjust the timing is move this back and forth. We'll wait for it to cool down. We'll come back to warm up, and we'll come back and all right, our idle is dropping down. Still not quite there yet, but still got to let it warm up a little bit, and then we'll get that timing set just right. We're still not at operating temperature yet, but we're warming up a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for the radiator fan to kick on. This way we know that we are where it's supposed to be. I just heard it drop down a little bit more. Let's see where we're at. Look at that. It just dropped down and it's getting there. Once we're there, we'll be able to set our time exactly where it needs to be. And like I said, I might advance it just a little bit, get a little bit more pep out of it. Got to be careful doing that though, because you'll end up getting detonation. You'll hear it pinging. No good. You don't want that. Other than that, this repair is a quick, easy repair. I couldn't find any videos on YouTube how to diagnose. I just wanted to change the ignition coil, and of course there was no video on YouTube to change the ignition coil. So I did it the old school way and got myself a service manual, or in this case the old data. Diagnosed it and ended up just being more cost effective just to replace the distributor. So there you have it. Started right up. We'll let the idle drop down a little bit more and I'll show you how to adjust timing. Our idle is right where we want it. Okay. All data is saying 16 degrees plus or minus 2 before top dead center. So we'll go to our light, we'll go to the advance. I already have it set for 16. What we'll do is, you can see the little dot. You see how it lines up? Looks like we're pretty much right on where we need to be. This is hard to do with two hands. I don't have a mount. Maybe I can rest the light. I'll rest the light right there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move this distributor back or forward. We'll see what happens with that line. Let's get in there nice and close. I really hope you guys can see this as I drop the timing light. All right, looks like we're lined up exactly at 16. So let's go a little bit more advanced. It says we can go plus or minus 2, so let's see what it looks like at 18. It moved a little bit. Let's see. Now we're at 18 degrees before top dead center. So we're a little bit advanced now. This is where we're going to lock it down. We just tighten up those 3 bolts that we left loose. We'll make them nice and snug. And our timing is set, and she runs beautifully. All right, intake is back on. Everything is set where it should be. Starts right up. Very nice. Love the sound of those cheap eBay intakes. Very happy this car is up and running again. Well, like I said, I couldn't find any videos on YouTube about diagnosing the coil for these cars. So I decided to make one for you. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like it. Thanks for watching.